Autumn is a really important time for all our native tree species. None more so than the tree that's above me, an oak tree. At this time of the year, late autumn, late October, early November, the tree sheds acorns by the thousand. A large oak tree can produce at least 80,000 acorns in a good year. The warmer the summer, the larger the acorns. And as soon as they're on the ground, hordes of animals, birds, will collect the bonanza of food for them. And already, if you have some rain and some moist weather, they'll start to germinate. And they'll send out a little shoot, and that will go down into the ground and form the taproot. No leaves are produced during the autumn, but the acorn will carry on growing all through the winter. If you want a wow factor, then look no further than our native oaks. Some of them are giants. This one above me weighs over 70 tonnes, probably one of the largest living things in our county of Norfolk. It's over 500 years old, before Elizabeth I's time. Just imagine, no cars, no telephones at that time, the fields around us being ploughed by horses or oxen, people working hard, and it can tell wonderful stories, I'm quite sure. My uncle courted my aunt and they later married, and this was their meeting spot here in the early 1900s, and I'm sure they had some lovely stories, so I think the tree could tell some too. When we last measured it, it was 28 feet 4 inches round the circumference, nearly as big as me. And it's said by scientists that there's as much underneath the ground of a growing oak tree as there is above. So just imagine the root structure. And here you can see it spreading out 10 feet, 15 feet each side of me. And this is the bit you normally don't see. And this all-important taproot, which goes straight down into the ground, which it would have started growing as an acorn all those years ago. Many of our butterflies that share our summer with us hibernate as adults. There's several species that do that. The peacock butterfly, the comma, and the brimstone are 3 species. And they choose quite unusual places sometimes to hibernate. An old log pile, for instance, and in this case, inside a water tank. It's cool, which is ideal. It's dry, which is also perfect for them. And they spend the winter with their wings closed up tight, ready to fly about in February and March after the winter's passed. So those delicate insects like that have feasted on the ivy, pollen and nectar, and that sees them through the winter months, almost without moving. Unless they're disturbed, then they'll open their wings up and expose the eyes on the top if it's a peacock butterfly, and make a noise like peeling sellotape to frighten any predators. The rest of the time, fast asleep all through the winter months, just like I'd like to be. I've come into Fox's Grove at Caister St Edmunds. It's 30 acres of quite ancient woodland here, and the wood is filled with sweet chestnut trees. It's an introduced species, probably introduced by the Romans, who brought it with them wherever they went. And right beside us here we have the Roman capital of Eastern Britain. Venta Icenorum is the Latin name of the town. And the Romans were here for 200 or 300 years, and they brought chestnuts here, sweet chestnuts, as an important source of food. We've found charcoal remains of some of the excavations that have been done at the town just beside us here, but the sweet chestnuts have remained here and self-seeded in this area of woodland, and this is a time of the year in autumn when they cascade onto the ground. And instead of being an important foodstuff for us, they're now important food for all the animals and mammals that live here. Squirrels, dogs, and of course badgers as well. And this is the time of the year the badgers gorge themselves on this massive crop of sweet chestnuts here and fatten up for the winter. And they don't actually hibernate, but they will spend most of the time underground in the forthcoming season as winter approaches. So there's around 15 badgers right underneath where I'm sitting, and I managed to get some nighttime footage of them feeding on the chestnuts here on the woodland floor. They're fantastic mammals, and it's lovely to have them here at the farm. So sweet chestnuts, an introduced species, and really, really good crop this year because we've had a lovely mild summer, lots of rain as well, and that's about as big as they get in our country. So wonderful to see them. At this time of the year, slowworms, one of our reptiles, start to get active in the autumn. So I put corrugated sheets of iron down on the woodland floor. There's one. They just get warmed up under the tin, and that makes them active. Let's see if we can just grab him. A lot of people think they are snakes, but in fact they're legless lizards, and they're very dark underneath, purple sometimes. But the pattern on the flank is amazing. Very smooth and silky soft to the touch. Slugs are their main diet, so they're the gardener's friend. And quite soon, they'll be hibernating in this area of woodland and emerge next March and April. They'll breed in April and May, have their young in August, fatten up in September, and hibernate through the winter months. The slowworm, the male. Beautiful, beautiful golden colour. Stunning. Back to the wild, and off he goes. What a lovely sight. This is called spindle, and it's called spindle because for centuries the rock hard wood was used for making spindles for the woolen industry. Now it's just a hedgerow shrub, and it's inconspicuous for most of the year, but when autumn arrives everything changes and we have these fabulous coral pink fruits. Inside are the most amazing bright orange seeds, which is what attracts the birds. Birds absolutely love them and devour them all in the next few weeks, so they're not here for long. After that, the leaves change colour and glorious reds and yellows appear after the berries have been taken. Ivy, the most important conservation plant on this farm, and one of my favourites. You can visit ivy at any time of the year and it's always producing something good for wildlife and for nature. In autumn it comes into flower, and it's the last staging post as we go in towards winter for butterflies, bees and moths to stock up on with nectar and pollen, which it produces in vast amounts. This plant is covered in bees this afternoon. During winter, these drumheads form berries, which our winter visiting thrushes Blackbirds, our own song thrush, fieldfares and redwings, as well as wood pigeons, feast on the berries that are produced over the winter months. Once the berries are eaten, birds will use it for nesting on in the spring. So because it's evergreen, birds like wrens, dunnocks, robins nest in there. Brilliant for birds to nest in through the early part of the summer. And then it grows up and just a fantastic plant. So it's Britain's tallest stem twiner, heterohelix, and it can go up 60 or 70 feet. And many of the oak trees here at High Ash Farm, 300 years old and more, have had ivy on since their birth, really. It doesn't generally harm the tree at all because ivy's shallow rooted in the soil, whereas the oak trees go down after the water and nutrients. Some people love the plant, some people hate it, but it's my favourite. One of autumn's real surprises, spectacular red Admiral. This butterfly's parents were probably born in the Mediterranean, and they migrated up to Norfolk, laid some eggs under nettle leaves, and this is their progeny. They're called admirals or admirables because all the early entomologists called our butterflies by spectacular names: brimstone, peacock, admiral. So there's a fair chance this butterfly will make that 1,500-mile return trip down to the Mediterranean, breed again, and its children may well return to this country. Special at this time of the year because the ivy's in flower, about the last pollen and nectar flow of the year. So it's important for all our butterfly species that are going to hibernate as adults, and in particular for this red Admiral. What a lovely sight.